In this lesson, we are going to be looking at adding and subtracting integers. If you have some sort of previous knowledge of adding and subtracting integers and a particular way that works for you, that's wonderful. You can use whatever method you would like best. A couple of things to be aware of if you're in my class. First of all, when we get to the unit test for this chapter, you will not be allowed to use a calculator, so you are going to have to know how to add and subtract integers without a calculator. And also, just be aware of that as we move along here. For adding and subtracting integers, the method that I'm going to suggest that you use is the following, which I have circled here. And if you're in my class, again, you should be copying these steps down, not what's in the purple box, but this will be helpful as you come back to it later on. But to add and subtract integers, one way to go about this is to first of all begin at the first integer on the number line. So number lines, as you can see down here, go from negative numbers on the left to positive numbers on the right, and they could extend forever. But begin at the first integer on the number line, and then move up the number line, or to the right, if it's equivalent to simple addition. We'll talk about simple addition later on. And we're going to move left or down the number line if it's simple subtraction. So let's look at a few examples. So we're going to start at the first number, move up the number line if it's simple addition, and down the number line if it's simple subtraction. So if we look at this first one, we're going to start at 3. So 3 is right here. And since it's simple addition, so this plus sign means simple addition, we're going to move 3 up the number line. Or sorry, 4 up the number line. It's plus 4. So 4 up the number line. And we end at positive 7. So the answer there is positive 7. In the next question, we're going to start at negative 3. So negative 3 is an integer. And now this is equivalent to simple addition because this is negative 3 plus 4. So simple addition goes up or to the right of the number line. So if we go plus 4, it ends up at positive 1. Okay? Next one, and again, you might want to rewind this or do a few things if you'd like to see if you understand what's going on here. Next one, we're going to start at the number 3. So here's the number 3, which is positive 3. And then we are going to subtract 4. So this here is simple subtraction. So to subtract a number, we go down or to the left on the number line. So subtract 4, and that ends up at negative 1. And in the last question, as an example again, we're going to start at negative 3, which is right here on the number line, and this is equivalent to simple subtraction. So we're going to subtract 4. So go down the number line 4 times, and that ends up at negative 7. Okay, now the issue, so again, simple addition is moved up the number line, simple subtraction is moved down the number line, as you can see. The issue arises when we have a number and a variety of signs that kind of complicate students in the way that they treat these. So here's how to identify, and again, this is where you're going to want to pause this video and maybe write this down and kind of think around some things. Here's how to identify when you are doing simple addition or simple subtraction. So simple addition, if you're ever adding a positive, so as you can see, let me just circle them in orange like I did previously. If you're ever adding a positive, that's the same as simple addition. Okay? So these problems, so simple addition, adding a positive is equal to simple addition. So if I wanted to convert these questions to something that looked a little bit easier, I could replace, so this positive 3 that it starts with here, it could just be a 3. And then you could replace the adding a positive with just a simple addition sign. So 3 plus 4. In the next question, it's negative 3. So you can't change the value of the integer. That's a negative 3. But the adding a positive is the same as adding 4. Okay? And maybe again, I'll do those in orange so you can kind of see the correlation here. This is adding 4. Okay? Next one, subtracting a negative. So if we look at questions where you're subtracting a negative, like these two here, subtracting a negative is actually equivalent to adding, to simple addition, in other words. Okay, so subtracting a negative is also equivalent to simple addition. So if I wanted to rewrite these problems, first of all, the integers are 3 and negative 3 that they start with, and subtracting a negative, I'm replacing those with simple addition. And in this case, it's going to be plus 4 and plus 4. Okay, so you're going to replace the subtracting a negative with a simple addition sign. Now here's how to identify simple subtraction. If you have at any point in time adding a negative, or might as well look at the next one as well, subtracting a positive. So if you have those two signs beside each other, those are equivalent to simple subtraction. So in this case, and then we'll rewrite these questions so that we can understand them on the number line. That will be helpful for you. So simple subtraction, whether you are adding a negative or subtracting a positive, those are both equivalent to simple subtraction, which would be moving down or to the left on the number line. So if I was to rewrite these questions, this first one would be 3, so positive 3 can be 3. Adding a negative is equivalent to subtraction, and then we can just make it 3 minus 4. The next one would be negative 3, and then adding a negative is the same as simple subtraction, and 4. And then the next two would actually be the same. So it's 3, and subtracting a positive is equivalent to simple subtraction, so it's going to be 3 minus 4. And the last question is negative 3, and subtracting a positive is equivalent to simple subtraction, and 4. Okay? So that might help you identify if you're doing simple addition or simple subtraction, because you're going to see tricky ones coming up here in a second. Again, don't write them down, but you might want to pause this video and make predictions as far as what you think the answer is going to be, because this is going to be coming up frequently, and you're going to have to know how to add and subtract integers. And if you don't know how, this is one of many methods. So this is the same as what? Simple addition. So this question is actually saying the same as 2 plus 5, which most of you know is going to be 7. So 2, and then plus 5. If I go up the number line 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I end up at positive 7. Okay? And maybe again I'll use colors here to keep things sorted out. So the next one, if we're subtracting a positive, that's the same as simple subtraction. So you could change this question to being 2, and then instead of subtracting positive 5, you could just make it simple subtracting 5. Okay? So we're going to start at 2 on the number line, and then we are going to subtract 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that ends up at negative 3. Okay? Make predictions about the next two. If you want to pause the video, that would be useful for you. Again, you're not writing this down, but this is the same as simple subtraction. So if you'd like to change this question, this is negative 2, and instead of adding negative 5, this could be the same as negative 2 minus 5. Okay, so we start at the first integer, which is negative 2 right here, and since it's subtracting, we're going to go down the number line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we end up at negative 7. Okay, one more. Subtracting a negative is equivalent to simple addition. So this question would be negative 2 and plus 5. Okay, so in that particular problem, sorry about the announcement, we'd start at negative 2, and since subtracting a negative is the same as simple addition, we would go up 5. So that's plus 5, and we end up at positive 3. Okay, so the last thing I'd like you to practice, and you might want to try this on your own, and I'll get to the answers here pretty quickly, are these 7 problems. Maybe try them. I'm going to get to the answers here pretty quickly, and I'm going to kind of visualize a number line, because what you're going to find in some cases is that the number line's not long enough. So what we could do here, and we'll just talk through the ideas, negative 7 plus 3 is the same as starting at negative 7 and going up the number line 3 units. So negative 6, negative 5. So your answer here should be negative 4. Okay, next question. Negative 7 subtract negative 3. Well, we know that this is equivalent to simple addition. So this question is exactly the same as writing negative 7 plus 3, again, which is going to be negative 4. It's exactly the same as the previous question. In the next one, adding a negative is the same as simple subtraction, so this question would be equivalent to 7 minus 3. And that, if you wanted to use a number line, you could start at 7 and go down the number line 3, which is 6, 5. So it's going to be positive 4 or 4. Next question is going to be actually identical if you can identify that subtracting a positive is also the same as simple subtraction. So that question is going to be identically 7 minus 3. So your answer in that case is 4. The next one, Subtracting a negative is the same as simple addition. So this question could be converted to 15 plus 7. And 15 plus 7, if you use the number line, you'd start at 15 and you go up the number line 7 and end up at 22. And the last two questions are the following. So negative 7 plus negative 2. So we could change that to simple subtraction. So this is equivalent to negative 7 minus 2. So on your number line, if you'd like to, you could start at negative 7 and go minus 2. So it's 2 backwards. So negative 8, negative 9. Your answer would be negative 9. And the last question would be equivalent to what? And that is simple subtraction. So this question would be the same as 3 minus 9. And 3 minus 9 is going to be negative 6. But I can give you an idea of that right now. So if you had 3, we went backwards 9. That would be 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. And we'd end up at negative 6. Okay? So hopefully that makes some sense. Again, the thing to be really aware of as you're taking down these notes and following along is where you're going to start and then what's going to happen. If it's equivalent to simple addition or simple subtraction, that will help you out infinitely.